Welcome to the Teen Entrepreneur Podcast, a movement dedicated to inspiring teens to follow their dreams of becoming an entrepreneur and a leader in their community. Let's welcome our hosts, Naomi and Cassie.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to Season 2 of the Teen Rockstar Entrepreneur Podcast. And today I have with me Gina Talarico. Hey, Gina, how are you?
Hi, Naomi. I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so glad to have you here. Thank you for coming.
Yes, of course. Thank you for having me. This is great.
Okay, well, let's begin. So why don't you, everyone knows you're Gina, but why don't you introduce yourself and tell everybody what it is that you do and a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, definitely. So, my name is Gina. I'm Canadian. I'm from British Columbia, Canada. I have a finance background. So when I was pretty young, I went to university and decided that it wasn't necessarily for me. So I got a job in finance and I worked my way up there before I started my own business. So that's a little bit about my past. But right now I'm a social media marketing manager. So what I do is I help anybody who has a business promote themselves on social media.
Okay. And you said that you went to school for a little bit. Was it that you didn't know what it is that you wanted to do back then? Or was it that everyone, always says you got to go to college, you got to follow, the norm? So What was that about?
Yeah, so I graduated high school and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I took 2 years off and I worked, got a lot of life experience, loved that, saved some money. And then I just thought, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And the next logical step is to go back to school, or that's what we're taught to do, is to go back to school, right? So I ended up going back to school. I went for 2 years. So I really liked chemistry in high school. So I was going into a chemistry degree, and then I was getting my minor in business just because I thought that was something that was going to be beneficial for my life anyways. And then I ended up dropping out when I fully switched to business going into my second year, and or I guess it was second semester of second year, and I challenged all of my exams in that first semester. So it's kind of confusing. So I did a year and a half of chemistry and then half of a year of business as my minor. So before it was as my major. So before it was a chemistry major with a business minor, and then I went into a business major for that second semester of the second year. And I challenged all of my exams and I passed all of them. So I thought, you know what? If this isn't where I need to be, I just had this feeling and I said, you know what, this is something that I don't think that this is where I need to be right now. And so then I ended up getting into finance and just deciding that, you know what, if I can work my way up faster, I get some experience. And I never thought that I'd actually own or start my own business. And here we are. But that's just kind of the way that life goes.
I know, right? It's so awesome. When you start a journey, even when you plan it out, it never turns out exactly how you expect. It's the funny thing. And so what is a day in the life of Gina, the entrepreneur? Explain to me what it feels like.
Yeah, so it's really nice. I mean, every single one of my days is a little bit different, which I love. So I'm very high energy. I always need something to do. And so going to a job where it's the same thing every single day drove me insane. And that was a really big thing about finance is, yes, you would have different clients that you were seeing every single day. But at the end of the day, they're coming to you, you're giving them a mortgage and then they're leaving, or they're opening up a bank account and then they're leaving. There was no excitement really. You had 10 things that you knew how to do and people would just walk through your door. You'd do one of those 10 things and then that's the end of your day. So every single day is different. So when I'm working more or less, I get up, it depends. I mean, I create marketing strategy for people. So I check in with my clients. I see what they need help with. I create whatever resources that they need. And then from there, I do podcast interviews. I just create as much value as possible. I hang out a lot on Instagram. I have a Facebook group as well. So really cultivating that audience too. And then checking in with my clients again in the afternoon. And then I've got my evenings free.
So how is it that you went from, finance to and then to marketing? How did you get into marketing? How did that take place?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a long story, but I'll try to keep it a little bit shorter. So I was up for a promotion at the bank that I was working at, and so I had applied for it. Everything was going really well. It's a pretty strict interview process. So I went through about 6 interviews, and at the end of it, they just said, you know what, you're too valuable. We think you're too ambitious for this promotion. And
love that. What does that even mean? You're too good, so we're not going to hire you.
And you know what? I believed them. And that was a really big problem. I had been in this job for so long that I just believed them. I was not living my life to the fullest. I was not happy. So I thought, a new promotion, maybe a bigger paycheck would just make it all worth it. And then as soon as she said those words, I did have about 2 months that I was totally mopey, and I totally believed them. I completely believed them. I was like, no, you know what? They're right. Maybe I'll put in 4 more years. I was 21 at the time. So I had been an advisor for a full year. I was very young. And so I got maybe a little bit down on myself about that. I don't have enough experience or life experience for this promotion. And I thought, I've always been very proud of being very ambitious, and for somebody to sort of use that a little bit against me, it didn't sit right. And so after my 2 months, I did take some time, and I wish that I didn't, but this is just the way that things go. But I took that time, and I really realized that, that's a strength. And if they can't see that, then I don't think I'm ever going to be valued here at this job. So then I started looking for opportunities online. I thought, you know what, I'm not going to open up like an office or a shop here. Social media was something that I have always loved. I'm a millennial. I was born in 1996. I grew up with a phone in my hand. So it's something that came second nature. And I realized through business owners that I knew in my local city here that social media was something that people knew that they needed, but they didn't know how to do it. Yeah. And so how easy for me to just come in and be like, okay, well, why don't I just run your social media for your business then? So I became more of like a virtual assistant or a contract worker, but I worked online. And then from there, how it grew was that, I decided that I didn't want to trade my time for money anymore. So, you're not just doing social media management anymore. So then I started teaching other people how to do it. So they hire me, I teach them how to do it, or I train their team, and then I help them strategize around their social media, how to grow on social media, how to actually get clients and do the sale. In banking, it was very high pressure sales. So I do have that under my belt as well. So bringing those other assets that I have to my clients. So kind of went from realizing that I was never going to be fully valued at this job into going, well, okay, what skills do I have right now that I can charge people for? That is going to bring value to them, to genuinely bring value to them. And then from there went to growing and scaling the business, which is where I'm at now.
That's awesome. And can I ask you, Gina, where did you get this mentality? Where did you get this? Because very much that, teens struggle so much today with so many different things. And I think it has a little bit to do with the education system and a little bit with social media being used in the wrong way. So there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of insecurity, but it seems like that's something that you had at a very early age. Was that something like these life skills? Was it something that you learned from your family, from your parents, or did you innately have them already from childhood?
Yeah, it's a really good question, actually. I don't think anybody's ever asked me that before. I've been told since I was very, very young that I'm an old soul. And I think it might just be like, I don't know. I think that I still have a lot to learn, and I know that for sure. Maybe I'm just more mature than many, but going into a career like in finance, I lied about my age. Actually, I lied that I was older. Because who's going to trust like a 20-year-old to give them?
Right.
Like, probably not so much.
We're ambitious. I love that.
Yeah. But I always told people that I was older. I've kind of always done that until I became a little bit more proud. But I think it's been a part of who I am, but it's definitely a big part of it that I have become very aware of now is who I let have influence in my life. Yeah. So I wish, if I was back in high school, so anybody here who's listening to this, be very careful with who you allow have influence in your life. So who you're actually listening to. Okay, so my parents are phenomenal. They've always been the most, I'm so lucky of who I have for my family. But if you don't have that, just do an audit. Think about who has the result that you want and listen to them, because you know what? Everybody's going to give you their opinion. Everybody is. But it's who you're actually listening to that makes a really big difference. You know what? You can listen to it all day long. If somebody's giving you their opinion and they're doing their thing and you don't agree with it, no need to argue or, even take their advice. You can be polite and you can listen. At the end of the day, if you actually take what they're saying seriously, just think about why. Think about why you care about their opinion, and seek advice from people who have a result that you want. Because they've been there, right? They know how to get, if you want something, they already know how to do it because they've done it.
Exactly. That's very wise. And you said two things. Yeah. Pay attention to who you're listening to, because it's true. Sometimes we see people, and usually the ones that give the biggest opinion and who have an opinion for everything are the ones who shouldn't be giving the advice, and usually they do that a little bit out of judgment, out of fear. So, and then we're taking the word as a young person because we're innocent, we're young,
Yes.
we're not as experienced, and we're taking their word as the Bible.
100%. And you know what? People, they can be convincing without actually bringing any value.
Yes.
So don't fall for the salesman pitch, whether they are actually a salesman or not. If they are convincing you of something, and it's okay. This is how you learn. It's going to happen. You're going to get burned. And I'm sorry to tell you this really early on, but it's going to happen.
Yeah.
You're going to make mistakes. You're going to listen to people that don't deserve your ear. But just keep that in the back of your mind. If somebody's giving you an opinion and they're telling you how to live your life, there is going to be that voice in the back of your mind that says, oh, is this what I want to be listening to right now? Or there's something there that I don't agree with. Just because they're older than you does not mean that they deserve any sort of real estate in your head. They don't.
Yeah.
That should never be a prerequisite to that. It should be, what result do they have that you want? They can teach you how to do it if they've been through it themselves.
Exactly. And I always say asking the right questions is probably the most important thing, because sometimes we ask ourselves the wrong questions, like, why is this happening to me? Or why didn't I get it? Or am I not good enough? And those are not the right questions. The right questions is, like she said, why are they telling me this?
Yes.
Should I be listening to this person? Does this merit my opinion, my emotions, my time, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because that is very important. So self-awareness has always been, I guess, a big part of your life. So do you have a little practice or something that you do to be able to keep yourself so grounded and balanced?
You just gotta work at it every single day. I don't really think I wish I could give you some magic formula that's because this is what you have to do to be this way. I read a lot. So I read a lot of, like self-help, or like, I can give a little bit of a list here. I'll go to my library and I'll type up a list for you of books that I've read that I love. And like I picked, like when I started really scaling my business, I had my best friend and her husband. So he is a business owner as well. So knowing that he's a business owner, he does like HVAC, which is like heating and like cooling for buildings, but he owns his own company. So very, very different from what I do.
Yes.
But they live their life in a way that I want. And they're 4 years older than me. And I've always hung out with people older than me. Not that that's a big deal, but hanging out with people who either are at the same place in life as you, or are somewhere else, and you're working up to that, right? And keeping, so them, and then my mom and my dad were pretty much the only people I went to for advice at all, probably in the last 5 years.
So what you said is so important, because the way that the brain and the human body works is, let's say that you're in college and you have roommates, and all your roommates are messy. By the end of the school year, you're going to be messy. Absolutely. Because we tend to, the brain just wants to be comfortable. That's basically what it wants to do. It looks for comfort. It looks for easy. It looks to save energy. So you need to put yourself in situations where you're going to want to better yourself. So what you said is 100% true. People that you look up to, people who have lives that you want to be. If you're in school, well, people who are doing things that maybe are in the sports you want to be in, or maybe taking the classes or doing the things that you want to do, or maybe have the grades that you want, because that will inspire you to do more instead of making you comfortable and then just slacking off and ended up doing nothing, which in the end, it's only going to make you unhappy.
Yeah. Well, and they say that you are an average of the 5 people that you hang out with most.
Yes.
So take a look at what those 5 people are doing. I notice this a lot more in university, so maybe this could be the next step in your guys' life. But I was like I'm hanging out with people, and yes, we all have classes together, and that's fine. But my extracurricular time should be spent with people that are going the same places I'm going. There's no wrong way to do life. I was not pointing fingers. I was not saying, this is the way that you need to do things. This is not. Because I had so many of my peers telling me that dropping out was going to be the worst thing that ever happened to me. And it ended up being the best. So, you know what? Just because they're doing life a different way does not mean that they're wrong. It just, you have to decide what you want for your life and find other people who are also on that path, right?
So peer pressure was never a big thing for you. You were always able, like when you said you were going to drop off, you got a lot of heat.
Oh yeah. So I learned those lessons fairly early in life. So I was actually diagnosed with scoliosis in grade 3. So I ended up wearing a body brace. So it was pretty much like a cast from like my rib cage to my hips. I wore it under my clothes, which was fine. Nobody really knew, but it still made me very different. So peer pressure, bullying, all of those things it was just kind of something that I was always different. And so I was really comfortable doing stuff that people didn't really agree with. Of course, wishing that didn't have to happen for me to learn these things.
Right.
I ended up I just stayed very quiet about what I was doing until it was done. I took to those few people that I really admired. So at that time, it was my parents. I've only become really close with my best friend and her husband, within the last 5 years. But before then, it was, okay, so I tell my dad, this is what I want to do. Or somebody, whoever it is in your life, the mentor, or somebody that is going to support you, they're going to push back a little bit, but it's because that's sort of protecting you, right? So I went to my dad with solutions to every single problem I think he could come up with my plan. So from there, then I told my friends, and I was like, hey, by the way, this is my last day of school. Like, yeah, of course they're going to say something about it, but it's not like I was waiting and contemplating and then telling them about it and letting them convince me out of it, because it wasn't an option. It's not their life. So I stayed very quiet about what I was doing until it was time that they needed to know.
That's funny. Yeah, you are an old soul, because it's very wise. And they usually say this, like Tony Robbins and all these speakers, they usually say, don't really go speaking and blabbing everything you want to say and do, because what happens is sometimes people will ruin it for you. Yeah. And what they'll do usually is instill fear in you.
Yes, exactly.
You're pumped up about an idea, you're 100%, and you start telling your friends, hey, you know what? I want to open up my own business. I want to do, and they're like, are you crazy? Don't you know that 80% of businesses fail? And then your mind just goes,
yeah. And so then that comes back to, okay, so who are you letting have influence, right? So if they say, 80% of businesses fail, and then that goes to your heart, okay, well, you care about what they think. You just have to think about why. There's no wrong answer. Why do you care what they think? Then it's gonna help you with all of your other relationships as well. And so then, like, from there, it's okay, well, at the end of the day, they're projecting their fears onto you. Yeah. It's not that they don't love you or that they don't want you to succeed. They're just afraid that you won't. Yeah. And at the end of the day, their fears are, they're trying to protect you. So it's not like they're trying to attack you. They're trying to protect you, but it's not constructive to a very, like a fragile part, like a business. Like when you decide to take that leap and to do it, it's fragile and it's scary, and you don't need other people's fear. You need people to just encourage you to do it. And those are the people that you gotta find, especially when you're at that point in your business.
Yes. Associations are probably one of the most important things. It really is true. And I had very strict parents when I was little, and they were so strict about my associations. And it's funny because I look at it now. Back then, I hated it, of course, because you want to do whatever you want. But now I realize how important it is, because, like you said, you are the sum of the 5 or 6 people that you hang out with. Yeah. So just think about that. Who do you want to be? What kind of things you want to do in your life? And then try to surround yourself. And if you can't, let's say you live in a little town in the middle of nowhere and there's nobody in your city that is doing anything you want to do. Thank God we have the internet now.
Because you know what?
Right? You can take the examples of others. Just get online, read the books, watch the videos. What were you going to say?
We have the world at our fingertips. We have never been able to influence so many people from your couch as we are in our generation. And you guys are like the next. Like, I mean, I think we're all part of the same generation, but it's insane. It blows my mind how many people I can reach from sitting in my office here. And I live in a town of like 90,000 people, and I'll never have to leave if I don't want to.
Right.
Like I will have, and you know what? I've worked with 2 local businesses when I first started, and that's it. Nobody else has been even remotely from here that I've been able to help.
That's what I say, because I know that teens have a hard time with social media now, but I feel that it's mainly because social media is using them instead of them using social media. And what I want young people to learn and understand is use social media. Don't let it use you to absorb your time and to distract you from everything that's important in life. On the contrary, use it for your favor, use it for research, use it for learning, use it to expand your horizons and expand your associations. And like, to start your own business. You don't even have to. You remember, I mean, 10 years ago, it was so different. You really had to put money down.
Oh yeah.
Start a business. Now you can start it with your cell phone. You can start a podcast with nothing. I mean, there's so many things that you can do. It's an amazing time.
Yeah. And whether it's you want to be your own business owner, or you just want to help somebody with something, everybody has a set of skills that they were given, or that you've maybe, I mean, for me in drawing, like I'm not artistic at all, but I know it's something that I could learn if I wanted to. So whether it's something that you've learned, whether it's something that you've been blessed with, either way, there's something that the world needs you. There's people in this world that needs you. And you know what? You get to reach them from your couch. You don't have to do it. If you find that you're getting really overwhelmed with social media and you're having a bad time on social media, just take a look at who you're following. What message are they broadcasting? Because I spend a lot of time on social media. You know what? There's been quite a few people that I graduated with and that I've met later in life that, I've ended up muting. So you can mute them on social media. So you hold their stories and you can mute their posts and stories, or just, without actually unfollowing them. Let's say it's a family member or a close friend. If they are not lifting you up and instilling more value into your life, they're taking up valuable real estate for somebody that will. The relationships that I've made online, especially being a business owner online, not a lot of people really understand that. It's a very different industry. And if you're not a business owner at all, it's really hard to comprehend what it's like to own your own business. And there's so much negativity on Instagram and on Facebook and on social media as a whole, that as I was scrolling through, if I found, this person, the last few posts have just kind of put in a damper on my day, I would go ahead and mute them. Or if you didn't know them, if it was just some random, I would unfollow them. And I work on that every day. I still do it today. It's auditing. So I'm constantly auditing my physical friend group as well as my social media friend group, or the people who I'm letting have influence, because whether I'm actually listening to them or not, subconsciously, you're reading their posts every day. It does subconsciously have a very big impact on your life. The podcasts that you listen to, the books that you read, your appetite is so much more than the physical food that you put in your body. It's everything. It's the people you hang out with. It's the fuel you put into your body. It's the workouts that you do. It's the art that you create. It's absolutely everything. And it has to do with being healthy at the end of the day, right?
And it's true, because sometimes we think, and when you start understanding how the human brain works, guys, let me explain to you that everything that you've seen since the day you were born, everything that you have heard is stored in there. We have the biggest computer in the world. Everything is stored. And so the way that the brain works is that it loops things and it plays things out. And sometimes you have a thought in your head and you're like, where did this come from? And it's from something that you read, something that you heard, and you might have thought it was insignificant or that you don't even care about it. It's not going to affect you, but it's in there. And then when you have those down days, those thoughts come in. And this is how it starts happening. So it is very important to be selective. And like what she says, it's very important to be selective, even who you have on your wall, on your social media. Because everything that you take in stays in, and it affects your behavior. It absolutely affects your behavior. You're 100% right.
Yeah, it even comes down to the shows that you watch. So my guilty pleasure is Friends. I mean, at the end of the day, I love that show. I watch it all. I mean, I used to watch it while I worked. I used to watch it in my spare time. And now it's when I'm not working, when I am not in that mindset of growth and of productivity. Okay, yeah, that's when I'll watch it. But there's a point where you know what, it's not feeding my brain during work hours. It's not feeding my life, really. I mean, it's very great entertainment, but it is not feeding me. I said, what am I learning from this? And I wasn't. So I started putting TED Talks on. There's millions of them on YouTube. TED Talks on YouTube. Find some podcasts. Whatever you're into, you can find a TED Talk on it. I'll leave it at that. There's so many other options that you can do, or audiobooks. Even if you zone out, it's still in the background. It is, your brain is still absorbing it. It's still in your surrounding. It's still very important with what you surround yourself with, your environment when you're working. So whether it's in an office or at home as well.
So you're very selective with your brain. Are you the same with your diet and everything else in your life? Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've always had a passion for fitness. I had a soccer scholarship going through school. Like I always worked, or worked out. And it was just something like, I know when I put good food in my body, I felt better. Plus I was sick a little bit as a kid, right? I mean, I had that brace on all the time. So I wanted to make sure that I was looking after myself. And I realized that, I felt a lot better when I felt good about what I was putting in my body. And it is very easy. I think you said it earlier that your body likes to be comfortable. So if you're in a bad habit right now of eating poorly, it's going to be uncomfortable to get out of it because we're very we're habit driven people, right? So humans love habit. And so it's harder to break. I mean, that's why so many people smoke. Habits are very hard to break. At the end of the day, nothing is impossible. Like she said before, we have the most incredible computers and the most powerful computers. We could what your brain can comprehend is insane.
It is insane, yeah.
Oh, and I find that working out and running specifically just gives me different stress release, or it's where my creativity comes in. So whether that's yoga, whether it's anything that's moving your body. Also being an entrepreneur, you get in your head a lot. So I find that it brings clarity to work out, and it also releases endorphins. Right when you work out, it releases endorphins. You automatically feel better. And it would be like taking a pill. It is what it is. It's not depression. It's a chemical imbalance in your brain. So what you're doing is you're just giving yourself the chemical that's not produced in your brain. But you can do that naturally as well. Like you can do more of that if you wanted to throughout your day. It doesn't be any crazy. Like you don't go and run a marathon or anything.
Right. But it's true. It's true. Having a exercise or a practice like that daily, like you said, our body naturally produces all these things that we look for in drugs, whether it's serotonin, whether it's dopamine, even DMT, our body produces, which is the highest form hallucinogenic. I can't even say it. But it does. It naturally produces them. And there are several ways that you could release it. And fitness, exercise happens to be one. And as a matter of fact, we should have, I think it's like 150 minutes a week of exercise to be able to have our organs and our body in a stable way. I mean, think about it. We've been industrialized for about 100, 200 years. We've been a little civilized, but our ancestors went to sleep with sundown, got up when the sun came up, and they walked. And they ate plants, mainly plants. We were taught from the 1930s that we're carnivores, but we're not carnivores.
Yeah. It shouldn't be as heavy in our diet as it is.
Exactly. We can get our protein from other sources, and that actually will give us more energy. And that's another thing I wanted to say. A lot of people think, exercise is so draining, but actually it gives you energy. You actually feel so much better after you exercise. I do it in the mornings too. And there's days that I don't want to go, but I just know that I'll feel so much better afterwards.
Yeah. I find like I get better sleep. So I feel way better if I stay up or I get up half an hour earlier to do a workout. Like I only do half an hour to 20 minutes to half an hour daily, but I do it every single day. I find that consistency is better than like going for once a week for 2 hours at the gym.
Exactly.
If I'm results driven. So when I see, I'm building muscle and I look better and I feel better in my clothes, and that's a little bit more of it as well. The confidence, even if I don't physically see any changes, I feel better. So even if my body never changed, it wouldn't matter to me. The way that it makes me feel you can't even put a price on that.
Yeah.
Like how else are you going to achieve that?
Yeah.
It does. You show up as your best self every single day. Could you imagine what you could actually accomplish if you showed up every single day as your 100% capability every single day?
Yes.
Crazy to think about.
Right? So what would you say, I guess, has been your biggest challenge? Was there a point in your business that you were having fear, or that you hit a roadblock and you thought, did I make a mistake? Like, is there a time?
I wanted to quit tons of times. I've known that consistency has always paid off every single time, whether it's been like, sticking with something. But when I set my mind to something, I'm very stubborn as well. So like I will not stop until I get it. And you know what? At the end of the day, the only person that I'm worried about disappointing is myself. That's it. I look up to my parents. I know that they will love me no matter what. And I think having that behind me is very solid. It gives me a very good foundation to allow myself to fail, for one, and for two, to have, like, I was going to say have the balls. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that here.
Oh, yeah.
Have the balls to do it.
Yeah.
Like, just to do it. Like, if I knew, you know what, if I try this and 2 years down the road, I'm in debt and this sucks, they're still going to love me. It's me that I'm doing this for. I'm not doing this for anybody else. So of course there's fear. I had that behind me. But since I am a little bit like obsessive compulsive but very stubborn, I wanted to plan out the entire map. So, if you can envision like an old pirate's map, you have like the starting point and then all of those little ticks, and then there's an X somewhere. There's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And then there's the X at the very end. So I wanted to plan all of that out before I even started. And that kept me back for months and months and months when I first started. So then I decided, okay, well, maybe I just plan my next 3 steps. I said, I know the X is out there. I just don't know what all this crazy stuff in the middle is going to look like. So what do my next 3 steps like? And I still do it. I'm like, okay, well, if this is the result that I want, and then I'm like, okay, but yes, you need to keep that in mind, that that's the result that you want, but work your way backwards. Just focus on the 3 next things that are in front of you. And I remind myself every single day, I still get overwhelmed. I still want to plan everything and have a plan and know exactly, on this date is the day that I'm going to, start live events. And this is the day that I'm going to launch my podcast. It's never going to work that way ever, because for one, it just never goes to plan. Ever. Nothing in life goes to plan.
Yeah. Well, you know what it is? We can have a perfect plan, but fortunately and kind of unfortunately, we have to work and depend on others. So there's always, you can't control others. There's always something that's going to come up.
Exactly. That's such a good point. You honestly can never do anything alone. You can put in a lot of the hard work. You can do what you need to do and show up for yourself. There's a large portion of it that you can do by yourself. You will never do anything alone. You're never going to buy a house by yourself. You need a job. So there's employers. You need a bank. You need, you can't do anything 100% alone. And at the end of the day, that's okay. Like, it's okay to need other people. That's why we're in a community. That's why we have, that's why humans are the way that we are. But
collaboration.
Yeah, you have to do that. We are stronger together. It's like a chain link, right? We are stronger together always. But that also means that we are unpredictable as well. You can never predict everything. So focusing on just a few things. And then when I would take one step, I got to plan one more. And that was the best. That's like the day that I was like, okay, as soon as I accomplish this, I get to do the next thing.
Yeah. And it's like a little reward. You accomplish this and it gives you that little extra fuel that you need to go to the next step. Yeah.
So I was always 3 steps ahead because I would plan my next 3 moves. These are the next 3 things that I want, that I want to achieve. And then from there, I always felt like I had direction. I always had motivation because I was always looking forward.
That's cool. It's funny because the way that I always try to explain it is your dreams are kind of like the Disney castle, that with the clouds.
Yeah.
And you see the Disney castle up there and it's so beautiful and the steps are there, but the cloud doesn't let you see the steps. You just have to take one step and just pray that when you take the other step, it'll be there to get to the castle. And that's just the way it is. Yeah. So what was your biggest challenge? What was something that you got stuck in and you...
Probably the over planning or the need to over plan, and it just held me back. It really held me back. It put a lot of unnecessary stress, I think, on me, because when things didn't go to plan, I felt like a failure. But that's the way that life is.
Yeah. Right? Failure is a very important thing. So I do want you to mention that, because failure is what stops most people from doing anything. And especially because now they're so afraid, because we put this relationship with failure that failure is failure and that failure is bad. But I don't think I've ever spoken to one successful person or read any story that said, oh yeah, my first business, no hiccups. It was just straight up.
Sailing. Yeah, right.
No problem. Are you kidding? What are you talking about? Never. No. Never. People have had businesses they've had to dissolve, lose partners, the works. So we see them as a success, but we're only seeing that story. We don't know what they did or the hardships that they went through to get there.
Yeah. Oh, and you know what? Like, me being able to grow my business as fast as I have in the 2 years that I've only been working online for 2 years, I am like still at Microsoft in their parents' garage stage.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm making a full-time income. They were not making full-time incomes when they were developing Apple and Microsoft. Like, no way. And so the ability to grow faster because of the age that we live in, it doesn't mean that I'm not, like, it doesn't mean that I haven't failed, because I have. And you know what? I welcome it now. I'm like, perfect. What lesson am I going to learn now? What lesson is this going to teach me this time? Because without failure, I don't think, for one, I'd be as, I guess, wise. I think that's the word you used to describe it earlier, or like as well equipped to run my business if I never had failed. If let's say my dad had built this business and just given it to me, just said, this is a really nicely run business, here you go, I would not appreciate it. I would have no idea how to run it. Yep. And I guarantee you I'd go bankrupt within 3 years.
Oh no, that happens.
It would not work. Yeah. Having the pride to build something from the ground up is so powerful.
Yes. And it's really important now because, I mean, look at COVID. The world is changing. I mean, we haven't had in the United States such big losses of jobs and everything since the Depression. And we're actually passing that. They expect by the end of the year, this will be the worst of all. So pretty much the security that we used to have, like even in the early 90s, that, you know, you could go to college and graduate and you knew you'd have that job in that company, and then you'd work that job for 30, 40 years, and then you knew you'd get your pension. That doesn't really exist anymore.
No.
That doesn't really. And then with AI, all these jobs in 5, 10 years are going to be gone. Even doctors, nurses, all drivers are going to be losing their jobs. I mean, everyone that does anything that's in computer based, unless you're an actual programmer or engineer, any type of work like that is going to be gone. So we're going to have to develop these resources that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And failure is, like she said, is something really important. Failing is just a lesson. Failure is just, okay, this is one way. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
You know, now I know. Now let's move on to the next one.
It's like a recipe. Like you're making an omelet and you put in the mushrooms before the tomatoes or whatever. Like, it's not good. Okay, cool. Like, it's just a different way how to do something. It's not wrong. It just did not work for you. And there is a reason, because I guarantee you're going to be tested in the same way. You're going to be better equipped to deal with it in anything in life. As soon as you, like, I think graduating high school was good. I mean, the next few years are pretty easy as well, depending on what you decide to do. But everything you've ever been through is preparing you for the life that you're going to have, good or bad. So being very aware of what you're feeding yourself with and just getting very used to being uncomfortable, because that's what being an adult is like. But it's how equipped are you to deal with being uncomfortable is what's going to make you successful or not. Your relationships, your career, everything that comes with that.
Yeah, I think you and I think the same. But from what I see, a lot of people, we're stuck in a society that just loves comfort. We're just so comfortable. Yeah. We don't wait for anything. It's instant gratification, pleasure seeking, you know. And what we don't understand is that all of these things are designed on purpose to keep our attention, to keep us there, to keep us unfocused from what we should be focusing on. But it is 100% true, 100% true. So what's next for you? What are your plans? I know you say you have everything planned out. Where do you see yourself in the next couple of years?
Yeah, so I try not to think in years, just because we never know. I don't think anybody ever thought that COVID was going to happen last year. Right. But so right now I'm expanding. I want to give as much value as I possibly can. So I've been doing tons of podcast interviews. I've been just giving back. I've been extremely blessed this last year. My business had tripled actually in 2020. And so realizing that, you know what, things come around. Energy and money is a flow. So having, you know, when money goes out, money will come back in. But same with your influence and your value that you bring in. You know, I've been extremely blessed this last year and I want to give back. So doing a lot of that stuff this year, also developing some digital products. So what I do right now is I will consult people. So, hey, you've got an online business, or, you know, you've got a hair salon and you want to be online. So whatever business you have, this is what you do. I've been teaching this for 2 years now. And so now now I think that I have a system in place that I can create a course or an ebook or something passive, and then I won't have to charge so much, so it'll be more available to more people because it's a course. You would just work your way through, and there'll be obviously some development from me as well, or some touch points from me specifically, but then it's going to be more accessible. The information that I give is going to be more accessible to other people, as well as I'd love to do more like speaking events. So that's more or less the part that I'm at right now, is inspiring other people to do what I've done, and maybe people who aren't as lucky as me, who had wonderful parents. You need a mentor, you need somebody. I think this is fantastic what you're doing here as well. I think this is perfect. This is exactly what I needed, like years ago. But hey, it's okay. We're here now.
Right? Better late than never.
Doing more of this, doing more of being who I needed, and setting up next generations. Like my sister has a son. I don't have any kids, but setting up this next generation until I have kids of my own. Like, why can't I start now? Why can't I start giving back? So expanding my reach, this next part of my business, like I'm booked out until 2021. So the next year will be more of a campaigning and bringing on more clients. But for now, the next few months is just going to be giving value and supporting people who are in the same journey as I am, and also obviously cultivating my own clients. I've got an ebook dropping, so that's all about social media for business. So I'll probably launch that within the next couple of weeks here, and then work on possibly a course or something like that through to 2021. But that's got lots on the go always, but those are the main three things. So it's more speaking events, inspiring, giving back, and then some digital products are more or less where I'm working towards here.
Right, to generate passive income as well, which is very important.
Exactly. Exactly.
But like she said, guys, about the comfort, let me ask you. So you said, because I know this, you make sure you're uncomfortable, a little uncomfortable every day. And how do you deal with that? Because I want young people to understand, because when they see people doing stuff like this, they think, oh, it's easy for her. She's so outgoing, or she's probably an extrovert, or, she's not camera shy. But can you explain like a little bit the process and how you deal with it? Because fear and discomfort is something we all feel.
Oh, yeah, totally. Oh, yeah. So, being, I did a lot of work internally. So work on myself is something that I'm very proud of, because if I was not happy with myself, then I would have let that fear hold me back. And I realized at the end of the day that I was the only one holding me back. I've never always been this way. There came a point in my life, actually, I was in a bad relationship. And so I eventually got out of that, and realizing, I grew so much, realizing that he had influence on my life, and I didn't really have any reason to believe bad things that he was saying to me or about me, or it has a lot of growth to do. And I mean, not blaming him at all. I believed him. I was the one who let him talk to me that way and treat me a certain way. And so when I realized that I was the only one holding me back, and I was the only one that could do this, then being uncomfortable, it becomes a little bit like a way of life. But what I do to contradict that is make sure that I'm comfortable a lot of the time as well. I do a lot of self-care. I really, really look after myself. So whether that's, going to the gym, the things that I enjoy doing for myself. So as much time as I am uncomfortable, I also make sure that I am comfortable, even more or the same amount. Unless if you're growing, sometimes you're a little bit more uncomfortable than you're comfortable, but it cannot be one or the other, because you're going to stay in the same place.
No, it's true. Yeah. We need a reward. We have reward centers in our brain. So that's such a good example you gave, or idea, because do something that's uncomfortable and then reward yourself.
Yes.
That your brain gets used to. So I would tell my friend, it's kind of like training a puppy.
It is. It totally is. It totally is.
Like training a puppy. Okay. So you have to do it 1,000 times. Sit, and it'll eventually sit. It'll get used to it. And then you give them the little reward. And then now it knows, okay, so I sit and I get a reward. I sit, and now you sit and you get up. And then you get a reward, and then you could just go upping it. Just treat your brain exactly like you would, like you were training your puppy.
It is. And even if it's something as simple as, I don't like the way that I look in those jeans. It's like training the way that you think about yourself, training the way that you speak to others, but speaking to yourself is a really big one. Holding yourself accountable. So even like, I mean, when you're going to the gym, your muscles will hurt before they grow. And you know that this is the result. So you know that this is something you have to go to or go through to get the specific result. So it's reminding yourself every single day that every day that I'm not uncomfortable, I'm not moving forward. And so keeping that in the back of your mind, right? And so it does become easier. And honestly, the more you're uncomfortable, like if I had like an easy day, like I took this last weekend, I was barrel racing with my cousin and my nieces. So my cousin's kids, but I call them my nieces. So they went barrel racing for the first time ever. So they're 2 and 4. I took the whole day off. I was not uncomfortable at all that day. But you know what? Today I'm working from the time I wake up to the time I go to sleep.
Yes.
It's a balance. It's a teeter-totter, right? I would have given anything to be there yesterday. That's what I was doing all of day yesterday. And you know what? It's okay to have a day, to take a day. Like, I'm not saying you need to turn into some crazy workaholic or somebody who's doing that, right? But I mean, I still woke up in the morning and I was reading. I still did my morning routine, even though I had those other plans throughout the day. There's so much time in the day. Tony Robbins and Oprah have the same amount of time in the day that you do.
Oh my God, that's so true. That's so true.
And even if it's that little ounce of being like, I didn't work out yesterday, but I probably should have. You know, so maybe that would have been, I mean, I was chasing horses around, but still that's not actually working around. Well, that's not working, right? It's one of those things that I could have been more productive yesterday. But I mean, I'm not going to dwell on that. I had a day. Who cares, right? And it's being easy on yourself, but to the point where you're still motivated. Yeah, it was a huge balancing act, and I wish I could just give you guys a pill to have you know, like, right? But it's constant. I was not always like this. It's been constant work, constant every single day work. You wake up and you make a choice every single morning when you wake up.
Yeah, because sometimes we don't realize that, like you said, we're the ones that stop ourselves. Because like you said, someone could tell you, you can't do this, but they can't physically hold you down and say you can't. Your boyfriend can't physically hold you down. So when you know, only you can do it. You have that power. Only you have that power. And the other thing that I like is the things you tell yourself, because sometimes we are harder on ourselves and we tell ourselves things that we would never tell our friends. We would never speak to our friends the way that we speak to ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so when you say something to yourself and then you think, okay, if someone told my best friend this, what would I do? And I ended up getting mad or I ended up being like I could not believe, like, I always thought it was, I push myself, but there comes a point where that's not productive and it is not good for you. It is going to hold you back because you're going to believe that you are never going to be good enough. And that was a very, very big lesson that I learned, that I don't need validation in men to feel good enough. I create that for myself. And if they can't see that value, it doesn't matter. And women can do the same thing. If somebody is threatened by you or threatened from your potential, they're going to try to tear you down.
Yes.
And it's who you let. And
you think, oh my God, they see something that I don't. We have to be very careful. But that comes, like you said, it comes from you.
Exactly. And you know what? You cannot control other people. What you can control is yourself. And I realized that I really needed to, okay, who am I listening to here? And why am I listening to them? Yeah.
Validation is right now, I was reading research this past week that every scientist, every journalist, they did huge studies worldwide. And that the biggest problem that people are having is with validation. We are so worried about the things that people say or people think about us that it stops us on our tracks. It really stops us on our tracks. But what we have to think about is that every time that we listen to someone else, every time that we cross our own boundaries, every time that we let someone cross our boundaries, every time we do something that we don't want to, just to please someone else, what we're doing is we're losing a little bit of respect for ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay, we're losing ourselves in the process. And then what happens is when you don't respect yourself anymore, that's where the depression comes in. That's where the addictions come in. That's where all the problems come in, because it all stems from you. So yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were done. No, sorry for interrupting. No, you're also teaching them and yourself that they come before you.
Yes.
So you're teaching them that, if they say something, you say something, oh, this is what I want to do, and they say no, and you listen to them. You're teaching them that they come above you.
Yes.
but you're also teaching that to yourself. Oh, well, they do come above me. So then the next time they say something else to you, like, why are you wearing that? Or what do you think you're doing? Or what the heck did you do all day? Why aren't you doing this for me? You're going to be like, oh my gosh, why didn't I?
Yes.
And that is a very vicious and very, very awful cycle to get in.
Soul eater.
Yeah.
To me, that's the soul eater. It's
Yes.
so funny. It really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. So realizing that you, like, knowing your worth, and that's still something, I mean, I still struggle with. So like it's I don't think it ever goes away. Because you care about what other people think. You do.
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah, I care. I totally care what other people think, but I choose not to listen to them.
Yes.
And that's it.
And you choose yourself first.
Yes.
Choose yourself first. I mean, why would you choose someone else besides you? This is the body you came in. You know, this is your journey. Yeah. So like she said, it's your journey, it's your experience. And it's at the end of the day, anybody can say whatever they want, but it's your final decision.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we say, oh my God, this guy made me do this, or, you know, she told me, but really no one can make you do anything without your permission.
Exactly. And it's being okay with, if you go against them, having them not want to be around you anymore, or have them, when you challenge somebody else, they have that option to leave because they're entitled to the same like rights as you are. But the thing is, you can also walk away. They can walk away and you can walk away. And I guarantee you, like 2 seconds later, there's going to be a friend around the corner. Like there's so many people in this world. You will never be alone. You will always find someone. And it's, you know, if you're with the wrong people and you're learning from the wrong people, well, you can't really be surprised when more of the wrong people come around.
Yes. Yeah. And I notice a lot of young people, that happens to them. They're so lost and they don't understand why these things are happening to them, because no one's taught us that a lot has to do with our environment. A lot has to do with our associations. A lot has to do with what we watch on TV, what we choose to do in our spare time. All of these things matter because this is what forms who we are. Next time you're watching something, you know, if it's degrading, if it's just stupid, if it, like she said, is this really helping me? I'm watching this program, but am I learning anything from it? Am I getting anything from it? Then that's what you're going to get. We're like a car. What you put in is what you get out.
Exactly. And you know what? Trust that little voice in your head. Everybody has it. And I know that you've ignored her or him, that you've ignored them. You've ignored them. And you know what? It could have been a lesson learned. Things could have panned out totally fine. At the end of the day, when you have a moral compass and it's inside of you, and you will always, you know, the hair on your arms will stand up if somebody starts talking about something that you don't agree with. And it's a choice whether you can decide to say something, or you can just decide to walk away. You can decide to just, you know what, these aren't necessarily the people I want to associate with anymore. And if they are close friends of yours, well, they're probably going to ask why. And you can just let them know, hey, certain things I'm just not super agreeing with. And, you know, I'd love to meet you for coffee maybe once a month, but you taking a huge step back on a lot of draining relationships was another good thing that I've decided to. I mean, I didn't cut anybody off. I've never cut any of my friends off. I've just taken a step back. I said, hey, we're kind of on like two different paths here. I'm going, you know, this way. And, you know, these are the things that I'm doing and these are things you're doing. And I think that this is great, but you know, I've just got other priorities at the moment.
Right. I need to focus on these things.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And if they don't support you, they're not real friends anyways.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you are wise. You are an old soul.
Because I'm just going to start believing it now. Maybe that's something I need to start telling myself, that I am more wise than I think that I am.
Well, I believe that. I don't know. I believe that we come into the experience several times. We just don't remember. And every time we grow. And so sometimes we come back here and we don't have a memory. But that's what we feel like, you know, like you said, we feel like an old soul, or some things are a little bit more innate in us. And this is because we don't, you know, sometimes your mom can be, you know, in this experience, but maybe she's a younger soul than you. Maybe she's been around less times than you have, you know. So you really don't know, because we're really not even sure what this experience is. You know, is it a matrix? Is it a hologram? Are we sitting in a chair somewhere, like in the matrix? We have no idea. Exactly. Just an experiment. We don't know. We don't know. But what we do know is that we create our own reality.
Yes.
Okay. And it starts by our thoughts, by our words, and our actions.
Yeah. Whatever it is that you learn at the end of the day, I think that it's lessons and experiences and memories are those things that it really makes life worthwhile.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I want to thank you so much for doing this interview, Gina, with me. I had such a great time, and I hope you guys enjoyed it too. And well, we're going to end it today for now. Thank you for joining us for season 2, episode number 5 of the Teen Rockstar Entrepreneur Podcast. And until the next time, guys, remember, be legendary.
You just heard another teen living the dream on the Teen Entrepreneur Podcast. Stay tuned to see who's next. Ready to become an entrepreneur? Head over to www.teenrockstarentrepreneur.com to download our free ebook and online courses.